Good afternoon, Mr. Burnett. How are you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Mr. Burnett, did you drive or fly here today?
Fly.
You're from another state?
Charlotte.
And what do you currently do for a living?
I'm a service consultant at an Infiniti dealership in Charlotte.
And what was the first year that you began working for Infiniti?
1997.
What did you do when you first began working for Infiniti in 1997?
I was a valet. I was a valet while I was going through college.
And in that capacity, would you drive Infiniti cars?
Yes.
After that, where did you end up? Did you ever end up getting a degree?
Yes.
Where did you get your degree?
DeVry University.
And what was your degree in?
Business administration.
Did you get that here in the state of Georgia?
Yes.
Now, after when you first were working as a valet, what was the next job that you had after getting your degree?
With Infiniti or just the next job period?
Next job period.
I was in furniture sales.
What did you do after that?
I went back to Infiniti.
What drew you back to Infiniti? How did you end up back working for them?
Just a familiarity. I had a relationship with the manager at a store, and they kind of asked me to. It was an opportunity, so I went back.
Now, when you went to Infiniti this time, what was your job position?
Currently, what I do, a service consultant.
Now, can you explain for the jury what is a service consultant? What all do you do?
I meet with the clients or customers that come in for maintenance or repairs on their vehicle. I assess what the vehicle needs, whether it's check engine light on or a leak or no starting issue. I basically get the information from the client and put that in a manner so where the technicians can properly diagnose the vehicle. Once it's diagnosed, I reach out to the client and let them know what repairs are needed and gain the authorization to fix the car, and then basically handle the client throughout the process on updating them, let them know when the car is ready, payment, etc.
Now, as a service consultant, with what all you just described in terms of your job, what all you do in that job, do you have to have familiarity with the makes and models of Infiniti?
Yes.
Can you explain for the jury how you gain familiarity with Infiniti makes and models as a service consultant?
Well, we have to do certification tests quarterly to make sure we're certified. And then, also just being around the vehicles, you learn and pick up certain common things about the cars. And you have to identify certain things with them to know what year it is, what type of oil it takes. So when you're quoting prices, you quote them accurately. So.
Now, as a service consultant, is your primary focus? Is it true or false that you're focused on the clients that come in?
Mainly, yes. Yeah.
Now, to be an effective service consultant, with Infiniti, do you have to understand the technician side of the business?
Yes, because I have to basically interpret as far as what the client is saying. As far as sometimes help the technician understand what the issue is. And then there's a lot of terms and expressions that technicians will explain to what's wrong with the car. And sometimes that's not customer friendly for us to understand what actually the issue. So sometimes I have to do some interpretation as far as making it a little easy to understand on what actually is going on with the vehicle.
Now, Mr. Burnett, jumping back to after you got your degree and you worked in when you first went back to Infiniti, what location were you working out of?
South Atlanta, Infiniti of South Atlanta.
Is that the one on 4201 Jonesboro Road?
Correct.
Now, what year was it that you?
2005.
And how long did you work at that location?
Till 2020, 2021, I'm sorry.
So roughly about 15 years?
Yes.
Now, over those 15 years, how often would you drive Infiniti cars in any capacity?
Every day.
Would you drive them in both daylight and nighttime?
Yes. I currently own Infiniti, and I've also owned Infinitis from like 2007 on. So.
Do you get some perks working for Infiniti in terms of owning an Infiniti or buying one?
Yeah, we do get some discounts or consideration as far as what
Now, what kind of vehicle do you currently drive?
Q50, Infiniti Q50, 2020 Infiniti Q50.
Now, since you've been working for Infiniti, when did the Infiniti Q50 first come on the market?
2014.
Now, when it first came on the market, how would you describe an Infiniti Q50?
It's a sports sedan built on performance. It was pretty unique in design as far as at the time, as far as it had distinct features as far as the headlights, tail lights, the front grille were pretty distinctive at the time when it first came out.
Now, is there any Infiniti model or make that is similar back in 2014 when the Q50s first came on the market?
No, there was a G37 sedan, but it looked completely different than the Q50. It wasn't really. It was a whole different design. So
now, is there any significance to the G37 in terms of the name of that car versus the Q50?
No.
In terms of the lettering or numbering?
Oh, well, like far as the G37 was basically named after the engine size. So the 37 is how Infiniti used to distinguish what size engine was in the car. When the Q50 came out, it was the beginning of the rebadging to where all the same models basically had the same. So a Q50 is the sedan, the 4-door sedan. A Q60 would be the 2-door car, and then they identify the engine size by the decal that's on the side of the car, whether it's a 2.0 engine or 3.0 or 3.7 back when it first came out in 14.
Now, you have described a decal on the side of the Infiniti Q50. Is that unique to that make and model?
Pretty unique. You don't see it a lot on other makes. Most makes don't identify what engine size is in the car by any type of badging on the side.
So previously, Infiniti, you would know the engine size based on
the name.
Yeah. And then after that, they put a visual indication of the engine size?
Correct. Yeah, they were kind of tired of changing names every time a new engine came out. So it went from like G35 to G37, and then it stopped, and then they just changed the badging on all the cars to Q.
That makes sense. Now, are all the makes and models in the Infiniti fleet start with Q?
Correct. Yeah, the cars are Q, and then the SUVs are QX.
Now, you were working for Infiniti in 2014 when the Q50 first came out.
Yes.
Has the Infiniti Q50, does it have a sunroof?
Yes. Pretty much probably 80% of the models, or maybe even higher, have a sunroof. The only ones that don't have a sunroof are the Q50As, and that's on the back of the car. You'll see the A. And that was kind of like the base entry-level car, which we didn't sell very many of those cars because dealerships wouldn't order them because they knew they wouldn't sell them. So
now, when you said when you went back in 2005, you worked till 2020. What did you do after leaving the South Atlanta Infiniti in 2020?
I moved a few dealerships around. Initially, I took a job as a service manager at a Nissan store in LaGrange, Georgia. That didn't quite work out, so I worked at the Nissan in Morrow. Then I went back to Infiniti, different location. I was at the Cobb County location in Nally. And then I worked for Lexus for a short period of time before the Infiniti South Atlanta store asked me to come back. And that was in last year.
So you kind of went full circle back to that South Atlanta Infiniti?
Yes.
How did that come about?
I was up there getting an oil change on my car, and the manager that was kind of like a consultant there at the time, he was just working part-time, he was retired. Him and the current manager asked if I was interested in coming back. Cause I had still a lot of clients that would come through the store asking for me and stuff. So they asked if I had any interest in coming back, and it lined up with what I needed at the time, so I went back.
Now, what do you like about working for Infiniti over these years?
I like taking care of customers. Also like the product.
Hang on just a second. If you hear somebody say objection, will you just pause for a minute while I deal with that? Sustained.
Yes. Now, yes, Your Honor. Mr. Burnett, I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 459 Yankee and 459 Yankee Alpha. Infiniti Defense Counsel, it's
Yeah, I mean, I searched for the pick up the exhibits from the stand.
Sure. Your Honor, hand in the witness both 459 Yankee and 459 Yankee Alpha. All right.
Mr. Burnett, what are 459 Yankee and 459 Yankee Alpha?
Both pictures of a Infiniti Q50.
How are you able to recognize them?
The shape of the vehicle, the headlights are pretty distinctive. The front grille and the tail lights are also pretty distinctive. And it also says Q50 on the back of the picture there as well too.
And for your testimony to the jury, would using 459 Yankee and 459 Yankee Alpha aid you in describing a Q50 for the jury? Aid your testimony?
Do you mean that he's helped with this?
Yes.
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state is tendering 459 Yankee and 459 Yankee Alpha for demonstrative purposes.
All right. Those are admitted as demonstratives.
Publishing State's Exhibit 459 Yankee. Now, Mr. Burnett, earlier when you were describing a Q50, what is the most significant physical aspects of this make and model?
You mean like what makes it stand out the most?
Correct.
I'd probably say the headlights and the front grille.
Now, currently, so you've also had an Infiniti Q50, you said, since 2020?
Correct.
How has, since it came on the market in 2014 to present day, has the shape or the vehicle itself changed much?
Not much at all.
Overruled.
Now, Mr. Burnett, does your Infiniti Q50 2020 how does the front emblem look? Is it any different in terms of lighting?
There's some options on the newer versions of it, like 16 and up, where it lights up at night when the headlights are on.
Was that a feature when it first came on the market in 2014?
No.
Do you know when that lighting first came into Infiniti fleet?
In 2016, when they changed the engine sizes in the car. It went from a 3.7 to either a 2.0 or a 3.0.
Now, is in 459 Yankee, are the rims on the tires, is that standard, not standard? How would you describe those?
Those are standard wheels on it. There's two options. There's the 19s and the 18s. And some have, it's three. So 17s, 18s, and 19s. Looking at it, those appear to be the 18-inch wheels that are on it.
Now, Mr. Burnett, earlier you'd mentioned about when an Infiniti got away from naming the cars off the engine size, that they had a decal. Is that correct?
Correct.
Can you show the jury, if you see it, is that decal visible in 459 Yankee?
Yes. If you go just slightly back from the front wheel, you can see a silver kind of spot or kind of there. That's actually the decal that's on it.
Mr. Burnett, I'm gonna move this mouse. You tell me if I'm getting closer.
Keep going.
Okay. Same direction.
Yeah, you're right there at it now.
That is the decal that indicates the engine size.
That's correct.
Now, turning to 459 Yankee Alpha, can you describe for the jury what stands out to you in terms of it is different about the Infiniti Q50 compared to other Infiniti makes and models?
Just the shape of the tail lights are a little different than some of the other models are. They kind of mirror the headlights where they're kind of a little more kind of sunken into the body of the car.
And what do you all have certain naming conventions for the colors that the cars may come in?
Yes, this particular color is diamond graphite.
Now, when did you leave what was your last job in the state of Georgia before you left?
I was service consultant at South Atlanta, the Jonesboro location.
And when you moved to North Carolina, did you work with an Infiniti company
Yes,
there?
same role, yes. Just in Charlotte, yes.
Now, back in March of 2016, what location were you working in for Infiniti?
Union City, the 4201 Jonesboro Road, Infiniti of South Atlanta.
Now, do you recall a time where any law enforcement personnel ever came by that location when you were working to interact with you?
Vaguely. There was, and I don't remember the exact date or time, but there were some officers that came in. They were directed towards me. At the time, I was like the assistant manager or lane manager, sometimes we'll call it. And I think one of my other employees pointed in my direction. They had some photos or like a poster board of a car, and they just kind of asked some questions about what type of car it was. And there may have been a few other questions. I don't recall what they were. And then they were like, hey, this is part of an investigation. We'll probably be in contact at some point.
Sustained.
Now, Mr. Burnett, do you have any independent memory of what kind of car the vehicle was that they showed you in those photographs?
Not in 2016, no.
Okay. Now, I want to publish, Your Honor, what's already been admitted as 296 Yankee, and the state's going to start the publishing at 8 minutes and 30 seconds.
All right.
Mr. Burnett, while that's getting set up,
Oh, yeah, sorry.
in
Didn't know you-
preparation for your testimony, have you?
Hang on just a
Sorry,
second.
Your Honor.
I don't see anybody waiting.
Have you, more recently than 2016, reviewed some surveillance video and photographs for your trial testimony?
Yes.
Your Honor, publishing State's Exhibit 296 Yankee at 8 minutes and 29 seconds.
All right.
Ms. Burnett, if you can, just watch this screen.
Okay.
pausing. Now, Mr. Burnett was, I know that clip was quick. I'm going to publish 292 Yankee Hotel, which is already admitted. Now, is that surveillance video clip that you just watched, have you reviewed that before testifying in court here today?
Yes.
And what vehicle was depicted in 292 Yankee between 8 minutes and 30 seconds and 8 minutes and 40 seconds?
It was an Infiniti Q50.
Now, I'm going to briefly on the screen, what's going to be published is 292 Yankee Hotel. Let me know when you can see that. Is this a still frame from the surveillance video that we just watched a moment ago?
It's, no. Yes, it looks the same.
Now, can you describe for the jury what stood out to you about being able to identify this as an Infiniti Q50?
The headlights, the way they appear, you also can see the black grille, and it's kind of hard on this one, but as it gets closer, you can see like a little bit of the logo, like the silver reflecting in the front grille area.
And when you mean when it gets closer, you mean when
As it starts to come, I guess, closer to where it, before it goes off the screen.
Publishing, Your Honor, what's already been admitted as 292 Yankee Indigo. Now, Mr. Burnett, is this also a, I know it's currently blocked, but still framed from the surveillance video that we just watched?
Yeah, that still seems to be the same car, the Q50.
Now, what I'm going to do, Mr. Burnett, is I'm going to replay 292 Yankee at 8:30. You tell me when to stop when you had mentioned the silver emblem, right, as the car gets closer, in your words. So I'm going to play 292 Yankee starting at 8 minutes and 30 seconds, and you just tell me when to stop when you think it would be helpful to see that.
I'm sorry, it's real quick.
It's all right. I'm going to publish 292 Yankee Juliet. What's already been admitted as 292 Yankee Juliet.
You can almost see the reflection of it right in that screen there.
And when you had described, and by the reflection of it, do you mean, what do you mean by that?
It's almost like where I guess the lights or the street lights or whatever are reflecting off of it.
And
you can kind of, like if you look in between the headlights, you can see there's something there. It's not black like the rest of the grill is.
And you mean the front part of that Infiniti Q50?
Yeah, the logo that's in the front of it.
And when you had mentioned this is this almost basically, when you said as the vehicle gets closer, as it's driving off screen, when you reviewed this surveillance video, is at what point from where the car currently is to when it's off screen did you notice that?
Originally, right, well, when you originally played it the very first time we spoke about it, I noticed it pretty quickly. Honestly, the very first time I looked at it, I was just looking at the car. I didn't even see what was going on the side. And then the second time when you read me back, I saw all the other stuff that was going on with it. So, I mean, as you recall, when I first saw it, I was like, well, that's a Q50. And you were like, how do you know that's a Q50? And we kind of went through the same. I was like, headlights, the grill, and same thing. And then also the tail lights, you can kind of see as it's taking off.
Now, thank you, Mr. Burnett. Now, since March of 2016, when law enforcement came and spoke to you, to present day today, do you have any other knowledge or information or any information about this case that this surveillance video is involved with?
No.
Mr. Burnett, I'm also going to publish 292 Yankee starting at 10 minutes and 40 seconds through 10 minutes and 47 seconds. It's gonna, it's close. Yeah. Mr. Burnett, that surveillance video that we saw, have you seen that angle before?
Today I saw it.
Okay. In preparation for your
Right.
testifying. And in that, what car do you see in 296 Yankee between 10 minutes and 40 seconds until when we paused it at 10 minutes and 48 seconds?
It's the same car from before, it's just a different angle, it looks like. We're seeing more of the back end of it.
Earlier, you had mentioned the quarterly training that you've gotten since working in Infiniti. Can you describe what that entails for the jury?
So anytime there's any new models or any new features or anything that's been added to the cars, they will have to go through certification tests on them. It could be modules to where we have to do like interactive videos and answer questions at the end, or it could just be an article that we have to review and then go back and answer questions. It just depends. Usually on a brand new model, it's more interactive stuff because they want make sure that you're following along and know what's going on. You don't just skip straight to the test. But sometimes on some of the refresher stuff, like if it's just a specification change, like the engine size or new wheel package or something, it'll just be like some articles that we just read and then answer the questions based off of that.
One brief moment, Your Honor. Mr. Burnett, when the Infiniti Q50 came out on the market, when was the first time that you drove it? Did you ever drive a 2014 Infiniti Q50?
Yes, it was, besides customers coming in, we also had them as loaner cars. So that was one of our main cars we used as loaner vehicles. So we were constantly pulling them up, getting customers in and out of their stuff. Yes, I've driven them a lot of times.
And what aspect of the Infiniti Q50 made you choose to buy it in 2020?
The size, the performance of it. It's a pretty fast vehicle. It has a lot of power. And from my standpoint, it's also pretty reliable because again, I see what goes wrong and with them, so that's what kind of drew me to it.
Now, the dealerships or the locations you've worked at for Infiniti, have those all been classified as dealerships?
Yes.
And is your customer either primarily or exclusively people buying a car for themselves? Or their, brief indulgence, Your Honor.
All right.
In terms of, do you have any familiarity with Infiniti vehicles being sold to rental car companies?
So they would buy directly from, so they buy Hertz Enterprise, they buy directly from the manufacturer. Now we do see them when they come in for recalls and that sort of stuff. So they do bring or if there's warranty repairs that need to be done on them, Hertz Enterprise, they do bring cars to us for us to service. So, but like far as purchasing wise, they buy them directly from the manufacturer.
And Mr. Burnett, what is your favorite physical attribute of the 2014 Q50?
I'm going to object as to the relevance.
Sustained.
I would too, Your Honor. That's why I asked. With that said, Your Honor, the state does not have any more questions for Mr. Burnett. Thank you, sir.
All right.